Hi and welcome back. On this video I just want to cover some of the issues I've had around installing the kitchen and something that might be useful to others in how you do external corners on kitchen plinths. So the kitchen that we have here we bought from a local company, Phase 3 Kitchens. They make all of the carcasses locally at the factory and buy the doors in. So it's a handleless design, as you can see, with aluminium extrusions on the vertical cabinets along the back wall. You reach around the slab door to open those. And then on the island we've got a metal extrusion on the top. And we wanted a fairly simple layout on the island. In the previous house we had an island that stuck out and had a worktop, a Corian worktop that sort of moulded down to the floor. We decided we wanted a simpler setup here, and also because we've got relatively limited workspace, we wanted the kick strip just in case somebody happened to be working at the end of the worktop. So normally when you put a plinth in, you'd probably have an end finishing panel that goes down to the floor, and the kick strip would just be cut square to fit to that. And because we've got the kick strip here, that means we've got an external corner, and you've got to do something to finish that corner cleanly. I have seen some metal plinths where you have a pre-made corner piece to connect those together. The plinth that we have is just an MDF one covered in a thin foil coating in an anthracite colour. So the obvious thing to do would be cut a mitre on that, and I tried get a reasonable mitre. You can just about see the edge, so I probably just need to get some paint and just touch up the very edge. But because we've got the island, the challenge that you've got there really for a mitre, I'd probably want to glue that together with mitre adhesive, perhaps have a bracket on the inside, which gave me a bit of a challenge with the layout that we've got here, that I have to sort of make that, glue those corners together and push them in from one end. So that wasn't really very practical. I looked online and everybody just sort of said, well, you just do a butt joint, but I've not been able to find out if I can get any of the foil to finish the rough sawn end of the plinth when I do that, and it doesn't look particularly attractive either. You know, when you've ironed that on, you're always going to see a joint of some sort. So I was looking at what I could do, and I looked online trying to find corners, and then thought, well, I've got a 3D printer. Could I print something to allow me to do a better job of finishing the corners on the plinth? So what are the choices that we've got to finish that external corner? So I was saying this was, you know, the way I would do skirting board. The obvious way would be do a mitre joint there, use mitre adhesive, possibly a bracket on the back to reinforce it. But because the way that what I was finding, no matter how cleanly I tried to cut that mitre, this one isn't glued, I'd still get a little white line on the outside, and I could probably got some paint or a felt tip just to colour that in, but it's a very sharp edge, and over time that's bound to get damaged with people knocking it with their feet, and not be particularly strong. So the other option that people suggested was, as I say, a butt joint. So that's just cutting the end of the wood square, and doing this sort of effect. But really that would mean I'd need to get either to paint the end of this with some paint that's matched to the kick strip, or ideally get an iron-on finish for that. So I wasn't particularly pleased with either of those. I thought they'd get damaged over time. So I went on, I think it was probably Thingiverse, and looked at 3D print options available, and I found something a little bit like this cross-section. It wasn't exactly the right size for me, so I just had to put that in Tinkercad and adjust the scale of it, so that it's a tight fit. But the nice thing here, it's got some screw holes in the back so I can secure the corner, but also I printed these so that it's a tight fit for the wood going in, and you've got sort of 15 millimeters there of overlap, so you don't actually need to be that accurate cutting your boards. You can do that and push those in. It comes with my printer, you know, quite a nice silky finish actually. Which, because we've got some other black elements like air vents and things for the fridge, whilst it doesn't match the colour of the kick strip, looks pretty neat, looks quite professional, and that's printed on my Bamboo P1S, I think is the printer. So it's a sort of mid-range 3D printer, nothing particularly special. I could have ordered some filament in anthracite grey and made it the same colour. But as I say, because we've got the contrast, I decided that that was something simple to do. So I'll put a link in the description below to the 3D print file for this. So this would fit these, I think, 18mm plinths and 150mm high. So I did have to adjust the model to do that. So I'll put a link if anybody wants to print one of these at home for their use. But we have a look at the kitchen. I'm quite pleased with the final effect. I mean, yes, it's a contrast in colour, but you know, really quite pleased with how that looks with the contrasting black. So, hope you found that useful. You know I don't cover a number of different things here on the build to do with automation and different technologies that we've used, but what I am doing is just doing short videos where I found technology that I thought, or a product that I thought's made a difference to me. And you know, this was something where I couldn't really decide the best way to finish off that kitchen island neatly, and really pleased to be able to make good use of my 3D printer to do so. So hope you found this valuable. If you haven't, please click like on this video. It helps me a great deal. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. I think we're about 1,600 subscribers or so at the moment. So thanks to all of you that are supporting me and following the journey that we have on this build. Look forward to you watching my future videos. Thank you so much for your time.